Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, so now we're going to have Miss Katherine Henry up to speak to everybody. Who's excited to hear Katherine Henry? I am. Wealth of knowledge. She's with Restore Freedom, Restore Freedom Michigan. Katherine Henry, she's on her way up.
Trying to decide if it's cloudy or sunny, so I don't know whether to put my glasses on or take them off, but all right, so I am very excited to see this many humans without masks on. And it's kind of an overwhelming feeling for me because I haven't seen much of any kind of human for the last 9 weeks. A lot of you know, well, first let me ask, how many of you know who I am?
Katherine Henry!
Okay. For those of you who didn't raise your hand, my name is Katherine Henry, and I'm a constitutional attorney. I wouldn't say that I was an expert in the field of good governance or constitutional issues until COVID started. I knew it was wrong, and I was there on April 30th speaking on the steps of the Capitol about how wrong it was. And from there on out, every single day, I've been fighting for our freedom, watching all of our government officials try to trample all those liberties. So one thing I guess I'll give you reference. My biggest claim, I have two claims to fame, I guess, in the last 12 months here. One is that I was one of the attorneys that was arguing in the Michigan Supreme Court this last September against the governor's executive orders. When she was out there trying to tell people that she got another 21 days and we still had to follow her orders, she was secretly filing paperwork with the court saying, "Oh, please give me more time." And I was one of the attorneys filing a response going, "I don't think so. Unconstitutional is unconstitutional." So my second biggest claim to fame, I guess besides the Restore Freedom petition, is what happened to me on Election Day when I had volunteers standing out at Layton Township Hall, far outside of the 100-foot required line. So I'm curious, I know a lot of people know about it. How many of you have seen the video of what happened to me on Election Day? That's more than I would have thought. So for those of you who didn't raise your hand, I actually got the crap beat out of me by 3 sheriff's deputies. 3 grown men manhandled me to remove me from public property, saying that I was trespassing on public property. And why? Because the property owner was the township clerk and the owner didn't want me there. He actually called the township hall parking lot private property. A sheriff's deputy. Oh, but don't think he's gone rogue, because he made it very clear that he got the permission from the prosecutor to charge me if I didn't leave the public property. And while I was in handcuffs in the back of the deputy's SUV, I got to talk directly to the sheriff. And I asked him, how is it that a township clerk or a local regulation or resolution can override constitutional and statutory rights? And he said, well, she has control of the property. I wish that that was the biggest, most awful thing that has happened in the whole case. but I haven't seen humans in almost 9 weeks because I've had to work every single day, sometimes never sleeping, working on 2 appeals for what has been happening in my case. Because from day one, the prosecutor has made it all of them, the main prosecutor and all the assistant prosecutors in that county, have made it their goal to violate as many of my rights as humanly possible. And the court staff and the judges. I have filed 2 appeals now. One, as of yesterday, has been filed in the Court of Appeals. The appeal on that really revolves around just the issue of trespassing. How many of you are worried about or have been threatened with being arrested for trespassing if you're in some business or on government property and you cannot or will not wear a mask? Anybody been threatened with being arrested with trespassing or know of somebody? Yep. Anybody want me to answer if that's a thing? It is not. And I'll be honest, I didn't necessarily know the detail of how wrong it is or why it's wrong for them to say they can do that until I got arrested for trespassing on public property. So the thing is, the reason why it took me all these weeks to write these 2 appeals is not because I'm slow at doing my research. I mean, I am very thorough. My briefs have like 300 cases cited in them. It's because just on that issue alone, I took the maximum number of pages to describe how wrong it is for them to do what they did. And I want to give you a few highlights because for different reasons they're going to be important for you. Now keep in mind the legal brief that I have and the motions and everything else, some of them are on my website. I think only some of them. I don't know where my husband is. Oh, there you are. Some of them? All of them? The main ones. I don't know what that means. But all of them will be on the website hopefully by the end of the weekend. So anything that I talk about, there most likely is going to be something right on the resources tab of my website, restorefreedomkh.com, so you can look at it yourself. Because laws are not for attorneys and judges. Laws are for everyone to read and understand. Everyone. Don't ever let an attorney or a government official tell you that you can't possibly understand the law because you're not an attorney. Certainly never allow a legislator, an attorney, someone in the courts, any kind of government official, never let any of them tell you that you can't possibly truly know and read and understand the Constitution if you're not an attorney. Because it's not a bunch of attorneys that drafted our Constitution, is it? We, the people, grateful to Almighty God, wanting to secure those blessings of freedom, created our form of government. That's true for our U.S. Constitution, that's true for our state constitution, and quite frankly, I love it more in our state constitution because those are the actual words, grateful to Almighty God for the blessings of freedom. That's why we created our state constitution. And what is the very first sentence of that's the preamble, what's the very first sentence, Article 1, Section 1 of our state constitution? All political power is inherent in the people. Don't let them forget it. So I was talking with a friend of mine who's assisting with my case, and he happens to be the attorney who's representing a particular business owner that's received some nationwide attention recently. And we're talking yesterday, or 2 days ago, about, actually I had a hearing on my case, and then I stuck around his office and we were talking about her case. And, you know, wanting to talk about, well, how should we attack this? How should we try to dismiss this? Well, does a government, and I am going to get back to the trespassing thing, But does a government have a right, does a judge have a right to issue contempt orders when a business owner is not enforcing the mask mandates? Well, obviously, we have some judges around the Lansing area that certainly think they have the power to do that, but they don't. Because here's the thing. We've been trained for decades, and certainly within the last year, to think about our rights in terms of being able to walk around without a mask on, or being able to go into any kind of property that's open to the public, or be able to utilize government services, whatever. We've been trained that we have to prove that we have a right to do whatever it is that we're wanting to do. I can't tell you how many, literally thousands of calls and emails I get still to this day, but started in last March. Katherine, can you please tell me, where does it say that I can blah, blah, blah? Well, if you don't remember anything else I said today, I want you to remember Article 1, Section 23 of our state constitution, or the 9th Amendment to our U.S. Constitution. We have a bunch of rights that are guaranteed to us to be protected in our state and federal constitutions. But that doesn't mean if we don't have a right listed in there that we somehow don't have that right. God gave us our freedom, not the government. We do not need permission from the government to act. That's not what a Republican form of government is. But the government absolutely, unequivocally, 100% needs our permission in order to have a valid act. If they are violating the Constitution, for example, we have the Article 6 of our U.S. Constitution that says whatever that law is, or government regulation, or order of a court, if it violates the U.S. Constitution, it's void. It's as though it does not exist. Why? Because government gets its authority from not a bunch of attorneys or judges or legislators. Government gets its authority from we, the people, period. So I had a train of thought, and I don't know where I was going with that. It was going to be good, but I'll have to come back to it. It's only the good things I forget. So on to the trespassing thing. Oh, a couple of tidbits. So normally I try to give like a cohesive speech that kind of goes seamlessly from one thing to another, but I would be here for 3 hours to describe my brief, and I'll do a live video on my brief and on the appeals process and everything, hopefully yet this weekend. But in the meantime, I kind of isolated some nuggets that I thought would be very important. So it's not going to seem as cohesive of a presentation for you, but some things I want you to understand. Number one, first of all, how many, I don't know if anybody's going to be honest about this, how many attorneys are here? Are there any? Am I not seeing any hands? No hands? Really? What the hell? Sorry. I didn't know this myself until recently. I mean, I kind of had an instinct based on the fact that we have to take a constitutional oath as an attorney. But as an attorney in the state of Michigan, we are actually a member of a public body. We're actually a public official as an attorney. And we have an oath to take, the same one that judges take, and sheriffs, and prosecuting attorneys, and legislators take. We have the same exact oath that we have to swear to uphold the U.S. and Michigan constitutions, and that's it. In fact, the oath says you can take no other oaths in order to have this office. You have to swear to uphold the U.S. and Michigan constitutions. You don't even swear to uphold the laws. Why do you think that is? Because there's a lot of unconstitutional laws, so they can't put you in that kind of a bind. So the reason why I bring this up, it's a different reason from why it's in my brief, kind of. But we have a law that says if you're a public official and you're serving in that role at that very time, you can't be arrested for a misdemeanor. You can only be arrested for a felony or breach of the peace or treason. Literally. And yet, I was arrested on Election Day going out to Layton Township solely in the capacity as the attorney for Restore Freedom and the volunteers who were there that day. Why do I want to tell you this? Well, number one, a lot of attorneys are afraid because they don't realize the protections that they have. But number two, I want you to know, first of all, please don't ever call me and ask me for a referral, because I don't know a single attorney out there that I can comfortably refer any kind of case to. Any kind at all, for a variety of reasons. Some are good, but they're too busy. Some are not so great, but they have a free schedule right now. Some are going to charge you $40,000 and not necessarily fight all the way to, for your freedom the way that they should. So unfortunately, I don't know any attorneys anywhere that I can refer anything to right now. But what I want you to do is, any attorneys that you know, that you come across, I want you to remind them that they are a public official, that the State Bar of Michigan is by law a public entity, and as attorneys licensed to practice here, we are public officials who have that duty to uphold the U.S. and Michigan constitutions, but our professional code of conduct actually takes it a step further. We have a duty to uphold legal process. We have a duty to inform the public. A duty. Where are the other attorneys with their duty to help the public understand what's going on? They're not here. We have a duty to ensure that constitutionally protected rights stay that way, protected. We have a duty to not follow questionable legal obligations. But quite frankly, it says that in our rules that attorneys have the right to not follow some sort of legal obligation if they think it's questionable. But hello, everyone in the United States has the right to not follow a law, rule, regulation, or legal obligation if it doesn't follow the Constitution. Everyone. And you don't need to wait for a judge to give you permission or to tell you, oh yeah, that's actually unconstitutional. In fact, somebody else who's a much more famous, at this point, constitutional attorney here in Michigan, he and I were talking 2 nights before some important information. I'm trying not to call him out by name, but we were talking 2 nights before some important information hit the public. And he wanted help to fight the judge from trying to keep it secret and away from the public. And I said, at one point he said to me, I said, it doesn't matter what the court orders as far as, trying to put a gag order on this information. And he said, well, but you have to follow a court order, even if you think it's wrong or it's unconstitutional, you have to follow it until the higher court overturns it. And I said, no, you don't. And you're the constitutional attorney that everybody in the nation is following right now, watching what's happening here in Michigan. Why would you say that? It's something that so many of us have gotten used to. Well, I'm just following orders. I just have to do what my boss wants me to do. I don't want to get fired. I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to tick off the judges. I don't want to upset the apple cart. I don't want to lose my job. I don't want to make things rough for my family or for my children. If you don't start standing up and doing something now, whether you're an attorney, whether you're a school bus driver, whether you're the garbage collector, if you don't stand up and do something about this now, we won't have any freedom left to protect. So I'm not talking about the way that things are versus the way that they should be. A lot of people talk about, well, let me put it this way. A well-known, not-for-profit legal organization that's been involved in the fight with, the governor's orders is actually an organization that I was a part of and worked on briefs at the United States Supreme Court with for the last several years. but COVID hit. In fact, I put a post out maybe 11:59 p.m. on April 30th, after I'd spoken at the Capitol that day. And my post, I think it was one sentence, it was very short, and it just said, short for me, it's kind of funny, huh? It said something about, at the time I wasn't trying to talk about the Constitution too much because I knew people weren't quite there yet and didn't want to hear it. So I just talked about the law, and I said, well, as of midnight tonight, there's no more orders because the law clearly says there are no more executive orders. And I got an angry phone call the next morning. It wasn't even probably 12 hours later. An angry phone call from the lead attorney from this organization that's been fighting for freedom. He was angry with me about my post, and I couldn't wrap my mind around it. And that honestly was the day where I broke away from being the goody two-shoes that didn't want to upset my superiors or the people who've been around the block a time or two more than I have. And this is someone who served as a judge and as a professor, and a lot of people have him at their events, and I met him at the River City Patriots Christmas party years ago when I was running for state rep. Known as a good freedom fighter, but he called me to say that what I posted was not correct. And the more I grilled him about it, respectfully, the more it came down to the point that in the end he goes, okay, you're right about the law, but that's just not the way things are done. The cops are still going to enforce these executive orders, so you can't just go around telling people that they don't have to follow them. I'm going to be honest, I lost respect for him that day. And I've never worked with that particular organization again. That's the same organization that's been putting stuff out there telling people that a private business is private property and they can do whatever they want. And if they want to force you to wear a mask in their store or their whatever it is, then they can. And if not, then you're guilty of criminal trespassing. Well, let's blend what's happening in my case from Election Day, where I was charged with criminal trespassing. Actually, I was charged with a civil infraction, and the cop modified the ticket before he filed it with the court, but that's a totally different story. One that the court doesn't care about and think it's totally okay. But so I'm currently being prosecuted for criminal trespass on public property. So, again, all along I've been saying to people, no, you can't discriminate. You can't kick somebody out if they can't wear a mask because you don't know if they have a medical condition, and you don't have a right to ask. No, it's not HIPAA, has nothing to do with HIPAA. It is, HIPAA only stops your medical providers from sharing your information. But you have privacy interests. And if nowhere else than found in the Constitution, you have a right to that privacy. And so a person doesn't have, a business owner, a store manager, has no way of knowing why it is that you're not wearing a mask. Maybe you have asthma. Maybe you have, COPD or some other kind of breathing condition. Maybe you have PTSD. I didn't hear exactly what Carrie was talking about with it, but I tried to raise my hand. He didn't see me. I have PTSD, but my PTSD is actually from what happened to me on Election Day. And the person who actually really for the first time told me and made me realize that I had PTSD is a good friend of mine. I don't know if she was here today. Kristen Megan. Does anybody know Kristen Megan? She's awesome. And she saw it in me. So that's pretty sad when you get PTSD from your own sheriff's deputies, right? Those who have a duty to uphold the law and to uphold the Constitution. But at any rate, so I knew all along that it was wrong for these business owners to do this, but I didn't have as many specifics. Well, like I said, I've been spending, well, that's just on my appeal that I've been spending the last 9 weeks nonstop every single day. Since November 3rd, I have spent every day researching the law, the cases, the constitutional provisions, the court rules, you name it. And I could tell you emphatically, 100%, and this is rare, Well, I did a lot of family law, and there's no 100% in family law at all. Very few points of the law are 100% certain on things. It's just the way it is. But I could tell you emphatically, with no doubt at all, you cannot be charged with the criminal trespass statute when you're simply present on property open to the general public. I worded that specifically because it doesn't just apply to public property in the sense of property owned by the people, by the government. It also applies to property that is owned by individuals. And I want to make sure I get this right because I have so many laws up in my head right now, I don't want to misquote it. This is actually my brief that I just filed with the Court of Appeals. So remember those 300 cases I was telling you about? I'm looking for one of them right now. I'm going to read you a highlight real quick that I just came across. It's on the point, but it's not the point I was looking for. A lot of people are doing things where they're going into a business, not wearing a mask, not causing a ruckus, just not wearing a mask, collectively with other people, or even by themselves, because they're just trying to make the statement. They're trying to make the statement that I have a right to breathe fresh air, and you don't have the right to take that away from me. That's a First Amendment issue. That's your freedom of speech and freedom of expression and to petition and all the rest that goes in that. And especially when you're doing this on government-owned property, if it's open to the public, if it's a public forum, all parties have a right to a constitutional right of access. That's from our United States Supreme Court. All people have a right, a constitutionally protected right to access that property. All people. So, Menards, I'm sorry, you can't exclude people if they're not wearing a mask or they're not 16 years of age. That's not how this works. That's not even the good stuff yet. So, when it comes to trespassing, it's not just here in Michigan, this is across the whole U.S. But specifically, our statute here for trespassing is 750.552. That's criminal trespassing. And the whole case really hinges on the property's normal use. What you need to think about is this property open to the general public? Is it somebody's home? So for example, one of my very good freedom fighters, a brother from another mother named Joe, I've never seen him wear a mask, like me, and he fights very fervently against the whole masking issue. He's from Ottawa County, like I am, and has been involved in some big mask case stuff going on. So, good freedom fighter. But he told me last Monday about going over to a friend's house that he hasn't seen in a year, and when he got to the door, the woman that lives there let him in, and then she promptly gave him a mask, and he put it on. He went to their home. He was in their home. So should he wear a mask if that's what they want him to do in their own home? Heck yeah, it's their home. If they wanted him to take off his shoes, even though he had hadn't walked through mud, he needs to take off his darn shoes. It's their home. You have the exclusive use of your home. That's why trespass laws were made. Because if somebody is breaking your exclusive use, then they are essentially undercutting the rights for you to use your property. But look at the nature of the property. If he goes into Meijer and they try to hand him a mask, can they do that? Should he have to wear the mask? No. It's not their private property in the sense that they can just exclude people. Even with privately owned property, the more a property owner opens up their property to the general public for their own benefit, such as with a store, right? They're getting money because they're letting people come in and buy things. They don't then have the right to say, no, you can't have your rights here. Oh, you have statutory and constitutionally protected rights. Oh, no, 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 you don't have those in here because this is private property, and it's my business's policy to not let you in without a mask. Or it's my business's policy to not let you in because you're of a different skin color than I am. Or it's my business's policy to not let you in because you're in a wheelchair. Does any of that sound right?
No.
I personally believe in God, and I believe in Jesus and the Bible, and I do not think, my own personal view is that God ordains same-sex relationships. However, if I owned a business, would I be able to say to somebody, you cannot come into my business because you're gay? No. By existing in my publicly accessible place of business, that's not a crime. It's not an offense to me. If it is, it's my problem. Now, let's not stretch that to the extremes and say, oh, well, if I owned a bakery, I have to bake them a wedding cake. I mean, I could bake a cake, but I don't have to decorate it with stuff that doesn't comport with my beliefs. But the mere presence of a person cannot be excluded from any property open to the general public, regardless of who owns it at all. I can tell you that with 100% certainty. There is no case I've seen out there that says, oh, it's totally okay for this state or this, this township or this city to enact some sort of regulation where you can be arrested and charged for trespassing on property that's open to the general public. No, every case out there says, well, this municipality or this state tried to do that, and it's not constitutional, nor would it ever be. First of all, don't we have equal protection? Isn't that part of our state and federal constitutions? Didn't God create us all equally, and we're all endowed with those unalienable rights, and government is instituted to secure those blessings of freedom? That's its sole purpose. Literally, government was created so that when I go and exercise my constitutionally protected God-given rights, that I'm not trampling upon your constitutionally protected God-given rights, or your rights, or your rights. That's why government is created. So if I'm not trampling on any of your rights by doing what I'm doing, government doesn't have the authority to stop me. And that's as basic as it gets. And yet you wouldn't think so, because look at how many laws we have. We have so many laws that the deputies who beat the crap out of me on election day didn't even know how to read the trespass statute. It's like 3 sentences. It fits on a half a sheet of paper, double-spaced. In fact, when he wanted to arrest me for the election day trespass and was radioing dispatch to find out what statute number it would be and rolling down the car window so he could ask all the other deputies and other officials there what the election day trespass statute was, and no one could find it, no one knew. Well, it's actually because that doesn't exist. And I told him 168.744 allows you, it's the closest thing, that allows you to be at a polling precinct as long as you're outside of the 100 feet. And so you can pass around your petition. You can ask for somebody to vote for you. You can wear your, Trump 2020 shirt outside of the 100 feet so people can have ingress and egress to a poll and not be essentially stopped or bullied or whatever. I can get that. But then he wanted the trespass statute, which I, of course, after I told him which one wouldn't work, I said, you're not going to want to use that one because I was outside of the 100 feet. But if you're just looking for the general trespass statute, that's in Chapter 750 of our Michigan laws. And I said if he wanted to uncuff me and hand me my phone, I'd look it up for him. No joke. He he didn't take me up on it, but when he was all done looking at stuff and writing my citation, he said, "Now, what kind of attorney are you?" He said, "Wow, you really know your stuff." Duh. So, all of us should know our stuff, though. That's why I don't do private practice anymore. I do stuff like this when I'm not, when I'm trying to just stay out of jail in Allegan County. Although I probably should have a backup buddy in every county just in case. Just saying. I've been on Gretchen's shit list for a while. And Dana's. And they still haven't debated me on the steps of the Capitol yet. What the heck?
Yeah, really.
Anybody remember that I challenged them to a debate before I even ever had the Restore Freedom constitutional amendment petition? And yet, they haven't taken me up on it. Well, if you're watching a video of this, Gretchen or Dana, please, you can tag team and debate me on any of the legalities or constitutionality of any of these new COVID laws that a Republican-led legislature has put into place unconstitutionally, because they don't know how to read either. Or, an executive order or MDHHS order, any of that. So, I'm trying to make sure that I give you enough detail without making it too complicated. Again, if you want to look up the laws I cite, if you want to look up the court rules or the constitutional provisions or the cases, look up the briefs. They will be all there, hopefully by the end of the weekend, but a lot of them are already there. But no matter what, if you are just physically present, and that's what a trespass statute is. The criminal trespass statute literally says, I'm gonna make sure I really don't screw this up. Give me a second. If I just try to tell you, it's gonna take 10 minutes, but if I read what I wrote, then it's a lot shorter. Okay. In order to be guilty of criminal trespass here in Michigan, the prosecutor has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt every element of the offense. And it boils down to that you remain on the premises of another intentionally and without lawful authority, after being notified to depart by the owner or the owner's agent. So the interesting thing there is if you have lawful authority, you can't be guilty of trespass, right? Obviously, I just read that. Well, if you're on property open to the general public, I don't give a crap who owns it, you are lawfully authorized to be there, period. There are no exceptions to that. It doesn't say if you're not wearing a mask, they can discriminate, or they can kick you out, or they can have you trespassed. That's not a thing. So fight it. Are they going to follow the laws? Has any government official in the last year followed any law?
No.
Does that mean we should just give up and do what they want us to?
No.
Fight for it. I don't have a Staples Easy button to tell you how to fix everything. I don't know what exactly to tell you to do so that it gets changed like now. But I tell you that I'm not even legally allowed to leave the state right now because I'm viewed as a criminal defendant by being on public property. I'm not giving up the fight. My poor child, my youngest, has hardly had any quality time with her mom and dad since November 3rd because I've been fighting this every day. And my machinist husband, can you stand up and wave? See, he hasn't been able to trim his hair or his beard in a long time. I took scissors to his sideburns the other day. We are fighting every single day. Just this week alone, we have stayed up till either 3 or 4 a.m. every single day. And then he gets up and a few hours later and he goes and runs heavy machinery at his work. I'm a little concerned about that, but we do what we do. So I can guarantee you, if you are concerned about your freedom, if you want to ensure that you can breathe fresh air and not be all, have your health all contaminated and at risk because you're having a mask on your face all the time and you're wearing it outside of the proper scope of what masks should be worn, and you're wearing something that's like a chain link fence trying to keep the mosquitoes out, which, by the way, great analogy given by my friend Kristen Megan, the PPE expert. It's not going to be easy, but don't say, well, I just can't do that because it's too hard for me to keep fighting everywhere I go, or it's too hard for me, I'm gonna lose my job, or it's too hard for me, because I'd have to pull my kid out of school or out of sports. Whatever it's going to take, we need to do it. I can't fix Michigan by myself. Not even a whole team of attorneys could fix Michigan. The government gets its authority from we the people. So we the people have the responsibility to stand up and do what is right and to fight for our freedom. It doesn't take somebody putting on a military uniform and serving overseas to fight for our freedom. That's honorable. But we each need to be honorable right here and right now. When you go into a store, when you go to the doctor's office, when your child wants to play sports, we love sports in our family. All 4 of my kids are soccer players, and 3 of them love volleyball, and they've played cross country and track, and I can't remember all the sports that our kids have done. Band, it's a sport when it's marching band and you're marching all summer long in those big black uniforms. At least they didn't play big instruments like a drum or something. But my kids love sports, and my oldest didn't even join the college team. Yeah, I just said college out loud. Dang it. That's your fault. My oldest didn't even join the college team this year because she didn't want to have to deal with all that. My youngest child, who's here somewhere and really cute. Oh, Emma Christine Henry, can you wave? Can you wave? How old are you, Emma? Nice and loud. 7. My baby is now 7, and she's wearing a Restore Freedom with Katherine Henry shirt. My baby has not been able to play an organized sport since last March. She missed the second half of that basketball season. She's missed numerous soccer seasons. Why? Because I won't let her wear a mask to play a sport. I love playing volleyball with my husband in a league. I've played sports, I'm not actually good at them, don't get me wrong. But I love playing sports, and I especially love playing in that league with my husband, and we've done that indoor and outdoor, all year long. We're playing volleyball. I was thinking hockey because he also plays hockey. But I haven't gotten to play a sport at all since October, because our league switched, to indoor and said, oh, well, if you can't wear a mask, then we'll have a glow in the snow league for you. And if that wasn't bad enough to play outside in the snow in Michigan, volleyball in the sand, then I asked them about, okay, well, it's summer now, we're gonna be playing in the sand, so you're not enforcing masks outside again, right? Like I can play again? Oh no, because the MDHHS orders, yeah, you have to wear a mask even if you're playing in outdoor sand volleyball. Are you stinking kidding me? So I have not gotten to play a sport since October. Why? Because I'm not gonna sell out. I'm not gonna harm my health, and I'm not gonna harm my freedom by signaling to the outside world it is okay for me to wear this mask just so I can get what I want or do things the easy way. And my husband finished out his hockey season when they try to, do all those rules. They told the men to wear masks at hockey. What's that? Well, exactly. I'm like, how close do you think you're going to get to another hockey player's face? It's hockey. This isn't tackle football or even like basketball or something else where you just have more. This is hockey, and you're going super fast up and down the ice. So stupid. But I am very proud of that man over there that's a little too hairy right now, because he did not put a mask on just to play hockey. And then he told off all the 20-year-olds on his team how ridiculous they were for thinking it's okay to wear a mask to go play hockey. You go, hon. So I ended up going all over the place. I'm not sure if I answered any of the questions I actually intended to. So let me do this. Does anybody have a question that I can answer that you think would benefit everybody in hearing? Yes. No. No. So the question, I'm assuming, can vaccines be mandated of any kind? COVID, flu, anything. So you can see why I don't even know who this person is, and I didn't even let her finish her sentence. She said vaccine, I said no. That's actually the answer, that's why. Let me just expand on that real quick. If you haven't heard about Michigan for Vaccine Choice, please check them out. There's a link to them on my website, and we've put them the link to their information in our newsletter. I love them all, don't get me wrong, but don't think just because they're excited about a bill that means it's 100% good. There was one last year, or a COVID bill that they were excited and they thought it was a good thing, and I freaked out because I was in the middle of doing a Facebook Live video about how awful and unconstitutional it was, and in the comments I was seeing somebody tell me, oh, MVC is recommending this bill, and I'm like, ah! That can't be good. So nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect, they're not perfect. I just want to put that out there. But I do want you to support that organization, and I do want you to get involved and at least read the information that they put out. They're very good. They have a whole team of people that watch medical freedom bills coming through. But anyway, the whole idea of a forced vaccine of any kind, like Michigan for Vaccine Choice says, where there's risk, there must be choice. But let's go back to the beginning. Government doesn't give us our rights. God gave us our rights. God designed our bodies to be a certain way. I don't know about you, but I don't think God wants me injecting any vaccine that's made even remotely close with any kind of aborted fetal tissue. Which, don't let them lie to you and say that it's not in there, or the aluminum, or any of the other garbage. It is in there. In fact, before COVID, in February last year, I wrote a brief specifically on the vaccine issue in a divorce case, in a custody case, fighting about vaccines. And I didn't use one single, like a Fox News kind of reference. Everything I had came from the actual vaccine inserts or the CDC itself. That brief is still as valid today as it was back then, and it'd probably help you have a huge fight if you have to fight your employer about a mandatory vaccination or anything like that. So you should check that out as well, which should be on my website. RestoreFreedomKH.com. And there's a ton on there. Hopefully in the next week we're gonna thin it out so that it's much easier to find the main things that I've got going on. But hopefully I answered that question. You are not required. In fact, let me tell you this. How many times do you think the word health is in the US Constitution? Anybody know? Have you seen my videos? Zero. The word health, let alone public health, is in the US Constitution 0 times. So all the cases where the justices have said, oh, public health, yes, our government has the right to protect the public health. Well, and our state constitution does have it in there, has it in there 4 times. One, I don't remember, it has nothing to do with health, like public health like we're thinking about. The other 3 times, it's not relevant to what we're doing. But one thing is that our legislature has the right to issue orders that are, or not orders, to make legislation that is, oh, I can't even think of the wording now. It's Article 4, Section 51 of our state constitution. It talks about the public health. But they have to be appropriate laws. And no matter what, let's not forget, no law can be enacted and have valid status if it violates the Constitution. So a law that's okay under our state constitution even is not a valid law if it violates our federal constitution. Never forget that.
Can we actually file a lawsuit? Okay, well, good. Great minds think alike. Can we actually file a lawsuit about, so immunization, you have to sign a waiver in Lansing if you do not want your child vaccinated before this fake pandemic. So is that against the law and unconstitutional for us to sign a waiver to not get our children to have shots?
I would argue that, and when I was working at a public school doing restorative justice, I stopped homeschooling for 1 year. I was still supplementing, but I put my daughter in public school because I was at the public school. So, and in order to have her there without the vaccines, I had to do a waiver. And they were not happy about that, let me tell you. Is it constitutional for them to require a vaccine waiver? No. Where do they have the authority to do that? It's not our job to prove that we have rights that we want to exercise. It's the government's job to prove they are not constitutionally prohibited. Or let me put it this way. It's their job to prove that they have the constitutional authority given to them to do something. They don't get to say, well, the Constitution doesn't stop us from doing X, Y, Z, so we can go ahead and do it. As a government entity or government official, you can't just do whatever you want because you don't see it written in, ink, hey, you can't do this. No, you can't do anything as a government agency or a government official unless the Constitution specifically allows you to do it. That's a totally different, there's a difference there. So don't let them ever forget that. Can you file lawsuits? Sure, you can file lawsuits. Speaking of lawsuits, as soon as my criminal case is done, I have a lot of people that are going to get little letters from me. But do lawsuits always work? Nope. Do we see that judges don't follow the law? Yep. So, yeah, you can file lawsuits, but, and I'm not saying don't, but just don't think of it as an easy way to fix something. Yes, sir.
Requirement for the high school sports.
Yes. Yes.
A district. How do we go about that, right?
COVID testing requirements, that's what you're asking about? Okay, so this is going to be true for anything about government at all. The question is, what do you do about it? Again, I have no Staples Easy button, so there's not something that is clear-cut that I could say, follow this 3-step checklist and you're going to get what you want. Calling government officials, does it seem to work?
No.
But they're listening. Let me just tell you, for example, on April 30th, I got the inside scoop because I ran for state rep years back and I know a lot of those legislators personally. Let me just say that when the crowd left, I got the inside scoop that they were actually going to vote to extend her powers on April 30th. But we, the people, stopped them. So when people say the rallies don't work, the phone calls and emails don't work, the going to the, what do they call it, like coffee hour, with your state rep or senator, that doesn't work. It does work. Now, does it work every time? Is it a clear-cut, easy way to fix something? No. People that I respect and know as good freedom fighters, my friend Tom Barrett, he has a bill right now. I'm trying to remember exactly the context of it, but they're changing MCL 333.2253 and MCL 333.2453, the two statutes that currently give our public health officials the right to make these orders. They're changing the laws, but they're leaving the parts that say that these government officials can issue orders that prohibiting the gathering of the people for any purpose. That's unconstitutional. So the good guys, really the good guys and ladies are trying to push these things to reduce and rein things in and bring the powers down to they can only issue these orders for 7 days. 7 days? They don't have a right to do it for 7 minutes. So are they going to necessarily listen and follow through and do what they're supposed to do? I'm not guaranteeing that at all. But should you stop calling your state rep when they are trying to introduce or support some sort of bill, or because there's something in place that is not necessarily tied to a particular bill, but like the testing, and the school district is requiring it, or the whatever the Michigan Sports Association is for high schoolers, they're requiring it. No, you still need to call your state rep repeatedly. You need to call your senator repeatedly. You need to call the school board officials, each and every one of them. You need to call the principal. You need to call the school teachers. You need to call the coaches, any single person. You need to email them. You need to have your neighbor do it. You need to be part of groups that constantly do that. You need to have protests. You need to do petitions. Online petitions are not legal, just so you know. You need to do all of those things. Now, do you think you might see the fruits of your labor easily or quickly? You might not. But I've heard way too many times people say, oh, the petitions, last year in Michigan didn't work. Well, I could tell you that if some of the grassroots groups had worked together with mine, ours would have been on the 2022 ballot, and it would have totally worked to change things. But look at what happened. Stand Up Michigan turned in over 500,000 signatures, and quite frankly, I couldn't care less if the legislature or Secretary of State, did anything to take that law off the books, because it's already been completely deemed unconstitutional. So no one can ever use it again, and they couldn't have from the beginning, but that's a different story. But the magic in that was that 500,000 signatures were turned in a short amount of time. So to say the petitions didn't work, or to see that, and I don't know what the final numbers were on the recall petition, but to see people, thousands of people, just with my petition alone, I went and spoke at literally hundreds of events while my petition was going on. I spoke all the way up in Laurium, up in the UP, past Houghton Hancock, if you know where that is. I was born in Hancock, so it's special to me. I spoke in Detroit at Hart Plaza. I spoke in Jackson. I spoke in Muskegon. I spoke in small places with 6 people that showed up. I spoke in front of thousands of people several times. Everywhere I went, people were gathering, and like this, but really, the thing that really started to get people was that there was an action item. There was something to sign. There was something to do. Getting people together for that purpose sent a message. It might not have given us the exact result we wanted, but we all need to start waking up and waking up our neighbors and people from our churches and our coworkers and our family members. Everyone, help everyone wake up and realize we have to do something now. So having your group of neighbors or parents, the sports parents or whatever, calling. Have grandparents start calling. Have their aunts and uncles. Anybody who loves your child, have them call at least one public official every single day to tell them this mask mandate and the testing, swabbing, all that crap is totally unconstitutional. It's a violation of their liberties, and they have to stop it now. Have everyone do that, one person a day. Have them take 5 minutes to send an email or make a call. That's what I would say we need to do. But do a petition. If it's your local school district that's making a rule, or even if they're just following a statewide rule or recommendation, that doesn't mean you can't do a local petition so that they put in place something saying they won't. Do that. So it doesn't take an attorney to write a petition. It doesn't take an attorney to sue somebody, by the way. It doesn't take an attorney to read the law. It doesn't take an attorney to read the Constitution. It takes Americans to enforce those provisions. So anything that you have to do, watch bills as they're coming through. Go to that coffee hour with your state rep and your state senator and call them out on their crap. Any of it, all of it helps. If you know somebody that's ready to run for governor or Congress or Secretary of State?
Right here. Right there.
Totally support her.
Right here.
Just make sure that you really support the people. Local races, Big races, support people, put your money where your mouth is. Go knock on 1,000 doors before the election for that person. Make phone calls, do social media posts. Don't think that you're just one person that can't do it all. No, you can do quite a bit. And as someone who's run for state rep, and I'm now on the MIGOP state committee, and thank you, Maya Hahn, for roping me into that one. Anyway, those are things you can do, and you need to do it. Don't think those local races don't matter. Where do you think the biggest battles are right now? They're at the county level. Pressure your county commissioners. Run for county commissioner. Announce now. Let them know you're coming after them. Be at every single meeting. Speak during public comment. Did I see you have a, yeah.
Is it any different, churches requiring masks versus like a store?
Is it a church that's generally open to the public? Then they shouldn't be requiring masks. Would they be able to discriminate based on a black man walking in because he's black? I don't think so either.
Go to Center Point.
What's that?
No, I want to fight in my church and not wear a mask is what I want to do.
Right.
We left our church because of mask issues.
I'm wondering, what I can say in my come at
How about you trust in God? Everybody needs to start trusting in God.
right?
That's right.
Yeah, you can definitely fight that. They don't have a right to do that for us. I was so devastated that our church would pursue the whole masking and the social distance. They were ripping out pews, so that you're far enough apart. They took away Sunday school. I was like, when they finally opened back up, I looked at my husband and said, I can't do it. I can't set foot in a church like that because obviously they're not following God's plan for us. They're afraid of something, or they're blindly following a government, and that's not what Romans 13 says.
That's right.
Just speaking of generally open to the public, where you have Costco and you pay a membership, is that
I just canceled mine.
no, but I mean, is it generally open, or is that a membership when you have to pay for something? Is that
That's funny because the question is about Costco. And in case you haven't heard, Costco is no longer very friendly to people who can't even medically tolerate a mask. In fact, they wouldn't let my husband cancel our membership last week because I guess it was in my name and he's just on there. So they made him come back with me later that day. So then the two of us are then walking in face naked. And the guy is trying to chase us down as we're trying to walk to the counter to cancel, which of course they don't let you cancel over the phone or online. So my husband's just turning around yelling back at him, "We're canceling! 'Cause you do this!" And then the woman, of course, asked me 3 seconds later, "Well, why would you be canceling your membership?" Because I don't wear masks. So anyway, are they open to the general public? It's a membership, blah, blah, blah. They can't discriminate a membership, though. I mean, same thing, can they stop somebody from getting a membership because they're in a wheelchair or because they're a different skin color? Nope. Can they stop somebody because they're gay or not gay from being, getting a membership? Nope. So they can't stop you. And by the way, just to be clear, all of you I know have heard the term separate but equal, right? You've heard that. Please tell me.
Yeah.
You're American, right? Okay. It's not okay. And it's not okay to say to people, whether you're talking about the discrimination sense, because someone like me can't medically tolerate a mask, or you're talking about just someone who's just not going to, and so that'd be more akin to like the discrimination based on the basis of race or sex or something. No matter what, you can't say, which is the woman at Costco tried to say to me, well, but you could just order online. Well, first of all, their prices are higher online. Who does that? No, I'm not paying more money because you guys are dumb. And I don't want to give you my money. But number two, it's still discrimination. I can't tell you how many times I've argued with people that say, well, it's not discrimination because you can buy our products online, or you can do XYZ online. That's still discrimination. And just think about it this way. Just think of two examples. If it would not be okay for a business or an individual to do that to somebody because they're in a wheelchair or because they have a different skin color, then it's not okay for them to do it to you because you don't want to take the vaccine, you can't wear a mask or don't want to, or you actually just love your country and you want to say things like the Pledge of Allegiance. Did I answer what your question was? Okay. Yes.
To take it one step farther, I can go in the store, but can they then refuse to let me, to serve me as a register?
Nope.
Nope.
They cannot discriminate against you because what you are seeking to do in there is to utilize the property for the express purpose for which it was designed, and they cannot deny you that right that they then give to the general public. They cannot deny you ringing you up at the register, was her question. Whatever the particular place is, whatever, if it's a store, or if it's, a ballet studio, or whatever it is, if it's open to the general public, not only do they have to let you physically go there if the general public can physically go there, but they have to be willing to serve you in the same way that they are serving the general public.
So where does this, business owners have the right to refuse service? How does that play into that? I've always been taught that. Obviously, it's not right.
What they should be teaching is the customer is always right, but
That's right.
they're at least always human and they have God-given liberties that, you can't just trample upon. Really, let's just think about it. What it boils down to, like I said, we created government for the sole purpose of making sure that when I'm exercising my freedom, I'm not trampling your freedom or your freedom. And what they're claiming is that by me not wearing a mask in a store, that I'm somehow going, I'm trampling their freedom because I'm going to kill them with COVID. Well, have you proven that I have COVID? And what if it was the flu? What if it was the common cold? Am I a killer because I went in public and I had the common cold? I had allergies and I actually didn't really go anywhere for 2 weeks just because of that earlier, because before we started to see that it was actually going to be warm, it was still very frigid. I knew it was coming within a few days because I felt it. Anybody who has really bad allergies, you know what I'm talking about. And my husband's like, you're full of crap. It's totally in the middle of winter right now. I said, no, it's coming and it's coming early. And yet I knew if I walked into a store and I had a sniffle or a runny nose or something, they'd be like, you have COVID!
I know.
Which I didn't, and it really shouldn't matter because it'd be the same. Would they freak out the same way about the flu, about the common cold, about anything like that? Do we have to stop driving cars because cars kill people? There's car accidents every day. It's the same kind of thing. So you're not infringing on somebody else's rights simply by existing. And that's why it's clear with the Supreme Court decisions, U.S. Supreme Court decisions, that you cannot be charged with trespassing by physically being present somewhere just because you're existing.
So what else is our argument at some place like Costco, besides arguing with them, when they refuse to serve you? Is our only recourse then to sue them? Because they're not doing it in the store, they're not allowing us in the store. So if I want to argue and fight with them, is it my only recourse a lawsuit?
So logistically, probably, but legally, no, because it is a federal crime. 18 U.S.C. Section 241, which is also all over my website and on a bunch of flyers and stuff and briefs. It's a federal crime for two or more people to conspire to take away your rights. So if a business has 2 or more employees and they are not letting you in because they're trying to trample all over your God-given liberties, and at the same time they're keeping their business open to the rest of the general public, that's a federal crime. So, maybe we just need people to start having guts to make a police, make a call and make a police report. Now, I will tell you, when I was speaking at Rob with 2A, I was speaking at his Treehouse event 6 months ago. I was on my way there. Actually had an event with Maya Hahn earlier in the day in Grand Rapids and then drove across the state. I was starving and we needed a quick meal, so Jimmy John's was the only thing we could think of. And we walked in, well, my husband walked in, and Emma had to go to the bathroom. And the guy working there just kicked out my 2 kids and my husband, and wouldn't serve them, wouldn't let them go to the bathroom. And I was like, oh, that's not gonna fly with me. So I marched myself on in there with just the youngest one. And the guy was less than pleasant, didn't care about the Constitution, obviously buys into the government garbage, blah, 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 and threatened to call the cops. And I said, you know what, let me call, because they were actually just down the block. If you know downtown Grand Rapids, it was like literally 4 doors down. Unfortunately, dispatch decided to argue with me about how I was going to be arrested for trespassing. And this is before I actually ended up getting arrested for trespassing. And I was like, are you serious? That's not a thing. They can't do that. Oh, it's private property. But they can't discriminate. So is it going to be easy? Are you going to have law enforcement officials or any government official doing their job in that regard? It's going to be an uphill battle, probably, but you never know. You might get the one deputy or the one officer who is going to do their job. And if they don't, then you could start filing things in court that require them to do their job. And you'll see me filing some stuff against the Ottawa County Clerk very soon that will help you in that kind of a situation file to require the court to order that the investigation be opened into the criminal charges. So,
And do I need an attorney to file, or I need
legally, you do not need an attorney for anything.
I need to know how to do that?
No other attorney knows how to do it right now. Actually, it's a truck driver that has been working with me on this. And I say this because we're actually going to expand it across to things that may or may not impact 83 counties in Michigan.
Can you explain how to file a complaint like that then? Maybe take it out, maybe take a video on that.
I probably...
10-minute video on that.
Well, you can't have your cake and eat it too. If you want to know how to do it, it can't be in 10 minutes because then it's not going to tell you everything you need to know. But when I file against the Ottawa County Clerk, I'll put that on my website for the reason that you can then use that template. So for example, if I didn't say this before, the brief, the multiple briefs I've been filing in my case, my trespass case, if you want to file anything against your employer or a business owner, or you're charged with a crime or a civil infraction or whatever it is, don't think that this brief is just a bunch of legal garbage and you could never use it. There's so much. Oh, hi, Paul. There's so much. He's from Grand Rapids. I didn't expect to see his face. There's so many things in that brief that are applicable to every situation that you're probably fighting. That's why God gave me that task at hand. God took their evil mission and he's using it to benefit the people of Michigan, quite frankly, of the United States. Because we are going to let it be known, you're not trespassing by existing. And they can't use laws against people and discriminate against people when they're the ones that mostly scream and cry about how you're discriminating against me for whatever reason, LGBTQA, whatever, right? So anyway, please read those. Look at the table of contents, or better yet, take an hour and read it. Really read it, because you're going to find so many pieces in there that you're going to be like, oh my gosh, that totally applies to this, or that totally applies to this. And what I will say is, while I was writing it, there were a few times, I think 2 or 3, maybe 4, that just one little chunk, my husband was like, oh my gosh, you have got to post this online right now. And I said, really? And he goes, yeah. And I posted it, and you wouldn't believe all the people that instantly understood and went, wait a second, but doesn't this also apply to wearing masks? Or doesn't this also apply to a forced vaccine? So there are things that you could definitely use in there. I'm putting it out there not so you can read about, my boring legal life, but so you can use those tools to fight your fight for freedom. You're gonna have to scream because I won't be able to hear you. I heard about every 10th word, but I think I'm just going to say thank you because I think I just heard you say you support me. So I just realized what time it is, and I don't think I'm the last speaker. Is that correct? You haven't spoken yet, have you? So I am horrible because I talked way longer than I thought I would. I'm still here for questions, and how about this? If do we know how many speakers are after me? Is it just you? Two? Okay, so there's 2 more speakers, and assuming it doesn't get, to be like 7 o'clock at night or something, I will stick around if it's okay, and I will get back on the mic to answer any other questions. Is that okay? After they're done speaking, because I just totally monopolized everyone's time, and that was very selfish. So if you have additional questions for me, stick around, and I will come back and answer more questions later. Thanks, guys.